Hello, so we're stood here in Arnolfini, which is the place where Rodrigo first started his journey in Bristol. We started working with Rodrigo for an exhibition that took place here in the summer of 2022 called Forest Weightless Ground, which is all about exploring the forest floor as an ecology and looking at all the different themes that come from that, such as the ideas of regeneration and decomposition, looking at mycelium networks, looking at ideas around archives and language and those different types of networks. And we actually started talking to Rodrigo back in, I think it was 2020, when we first went into lockdown and started working on the show. And Rodrigo and I had a series of fascinating Zoom discussions where Rodrigo would show me all kinds of different areas of work that he was working on. Sometimes he was zooming from a studio in Valparaiso in Chile, other times from Santiago where he was working on an exhibition. And over the course of working with Rodrigo, we decided that we'd show a series of prints that he had made, or series of drawings, sorry, which were called the Monoculture series, which were looking at different objects and different parts of nature that you would find on the forest floor, mainly from trees and other bits of nature which had become extinct within Chile, and was looking at that idea of the indigenous tree population and the fragility, and also looking as well around ideas around forest fires. And all of these different leaves and twigs had been burnt into the paper, which made up this series of 72 drawings. But we also then started talking about how interesting it might be to do a project where Rodrigo came to Bristol, and he was really on board with this idea. So we started looking at how we could fund that for a residency, and we were able to bring Rodrigo to Bristol for a period of 3 to 4 weeks where he spent time at Barr Ashton, one of UWE's campuses. Also spent time in Lee Woods, where my colleague Alex took him to find an actual fallen tree, which he then took apart and reassembled in the studio, making a beautiful sculpture called Fallen Tree, which I think was probably one of the most popular pieces in our exhibition here during that time. And then we were very lucky that during the process of arranging the residency that we were able to introduce Rodrigo to Karina at the Centre for Fine Print Research, who was able to extend that residency, which allowed Rodrigo then to create this beautiful book that you see in front of you today.
Hi everyone, my name is Alex and I am the project's producer here at Arnolfini. I worked with Rodrigo back in last summer to support him with his residency here, and we spent some time going out to Lee Woods, which is a forest not far from the centre of Bristol. And we worked with, we got in touch with some foresters who work for Forestry England, who own that forest, and we're kind of in conversation with them about sourcing a tree that we could use to create this kind of commissioned work. And now there's a lot of ash dieback happening in Lee Woods, so it made sense for us to take a branch from an ash tree that had kind of naturally fallen. And so we kind of took that back to his studio at Barr Ashton, where Rodrigo created this really amazing piece. At the end of the exhibition, myself and one of my colleagues took a really lovely trip back out to Lee Woods to return the branch back to the ground, which was, we had like a flask of tea and it was a sunny day, and we had just like a really lovely experience, kind of coming to that full circle of the piece. And so, yeah, it was really lovely also to have the opportunity to put together this lovely display of Rodrigo's book, which was just, yeah, such a pleasure to put together. Thank you.
Hey, greetings from Isla Navarino, from the, I'm part of the conference on global change and bioculture. I'm really thankful for I'm here? Okay. I'm so pleased to be able to show this work at Arnolfini. It means so much to this collaborative process of the Mycelium book, which has been really a dream, literally a dream. It came from a dream, the idea of this non-linear edition that encompassed all of the process involved. So I'm really with the edition.
Tell us a little bit more about mycelium and how it's going to solve the world, Rodrigo. It's a conversation that suddenly feels like is everywhere. It's a very current discussion, isn't it?
Well, mycelium is really important to understand networks in general, how things are interconnected, how this kind of web of life operates, and it's really, really complex, and mycelium is a really vital way for getting involved with this invisible process that happens mostly underground or through a substrate. And therefore, art, I think, could be an important tool to help and see what's hidden from our view, our senses normally, but nevertheless it's there, and it actually sustains us. So I think it was very experimental, the process with Laura, giving really great ideas to experiment and to try to expand my own understanding of print, of art making, and print as a tool to document and see this indeterminate process that is mycelium.
And is the conference that you're at also talking about the wider use of mycelium in terms of insulating our houses and all of those kind of things as well?
Definitely. It's a really important moment that we need to consider behavior as a species as well, and mycelium can encompass new opportunities to think as building material, but also ways of thinking, of getting familiar with this network, you know, like, and I think it's a good metaphor of collaboration, of symbiosis, and that we're just starting to understand all of the links that exist within an ecosystem, and how they're all connected in a way by this web. So we're here with many scientists and researchers studying the impacts of climate change in the subantarctic region. This is the furthest south island before Antarctica, so it's a really important place to study climate change, because there is no comparison with these forests in particular. They are below the rest of the forests in the world, so it has a very unique diversity and a particularly kind of uninterrupted landscape and nature. So it's a really great place to study these impacts as well.
And Rodrigo, am I right in thinking this is the result? Sorry, Rodrigo, am I right in thinking that you've also got an exhibition on there at the same time, which is a result of another residency? I was wondering if you can tell us a little bit more about that residency.
Yes, presenting an exhibition Punto de Vista, which translates to point of view, as part of global change and biocultural conservation conference. So part of the work made during the exhibition and part of Mycelium book is also part of this exhibition, which is installed in this new building. The CHIC Center is called Cape Horn International Center. Where we thought of the building itself, of this center, as a substrate where these organisms emerge and grow from the walls, from the in unsuspected places as well, from the floor, from the ceiling. So very happy to be showing in the very south, where some call it the end of the world. I think it's the beginning.
And am I right in thinking that you've got a version of, a new version of Fallen Tree that you made at Arnolfini, that you've done something similar but on a much bigger scale there in the exhibition?
That's a different show that I have in the Museo Interactivo Mirador. It's the interactive museum. It's a science museum. It's very oriented for kids, for children. It's full of all sorts of scientific experiments, installation, and it's a really great tool to educate as well about environmental issues, particularly Chile, since it's visited by one of the most visited museums in Chile. A really great opportunity to think about this and have a conversation, a broader conversation with the audience.
I think I caught that you were saying something about that being in an educational setting, and I was just wondering, Karina, to what extent you've been able to use the book and the print that has been produced with students or with people or visitors to the centre.
Not yet, because we literally got the colophon just a few weeks ago, last week. So you're the first to see it, and we are. It's almost kind of day one of the launch. So what we want to do is to put it on tour along with the other artist editions that we've got, and that will happen in September, in October, and we're going to be part of the Woolwich Print Fair in Woolwich in London. And that's going to be very exciting, because we're creating what we've been talking about as a cabinet of curiosities. So Rodrigo is the first to be completed, but this cabinet of curiosities will go on tour. So hopefully it will tour to different parts of the world, and it will become an educational tool that will then enable people to be kind of interactive and to be able to handle things, and to really kind of break down those barriers around what an art form is, what's an edition, what's a print, what are the, all those sort of kind of issues that can become barriers to kind of conversations about art and art making in practice.
That sounds like a really lovely legacy to the project, Rodrigo. I wondered what you've got coming up next.
Well, I am preparing some new projects. I've been applying to several funding to delve into new research, continuing the work made in CFPR and Arnolfini, delving into mycelium work and preparing my own laboratory of microbiology. But I'm soon to move to Germany for a few years.
Wow.
So I will be based in Weimar for 2 or 3 years since November.
That's fantastic. So can we maybe look forward to another visit to Arnolfini and to the centre during that time?
Absolutely. I'd love to catch up, and yeah, it's been a really great experience for me. So I really appreciate it.
Rodrigo, can you show us the book that you've made, the small book as well? Have you got it?
Yeah, just a second. Yeah, just a second. Here is it's called Punto de Vista, and it started with a trip to Isla Navarino, to the subantarctic forests of Cape Horn, and we were researching as an emblem of symbiosis and mosses as well, kind of trying to replicate in a way the experience of being in a forest, but particularly focusing on small organisms like the mosses and lichens and fungi. So we measured, took many photos, and reproduced them as sculpture, as paintings in the same size of the originals. Also recorded sound. And in this publication, you can see texts by Carolina Castro and myself as well. Part of a show in the Contemporary Art Museum in Santiago. It was a solo show using 2 rooms of the museum that now we brought here to Cape Horn, to its place of origin in a way.
That's great.
So this is the work at CFPR.
Could you also just briefly talk about the Mycelium poems that you've got in the edition?
Sure. The fungal poems for me were a way to understand these very complex organisms, through poetry, through writing. So I turned to poet friends, Luna Montenegro and Adrian Fisher, who are performers, poets. They wrote this poem called All Fall Cada Caída, which is one of the fungal poems. Also convergence, many words and phrases that had a particularly important resonance when thinking about mycelium. And it was a big discovery for me because it was basically a mycelium bath that where these letters were inoculated for several weeks, 3 weeks inside grain inoculated with Mycelium of Pleurotus ostreatus. It's known as the spawn, where then you transfer them to other substrates and reproduce them. And then wrote these poems onto soil. And that opened up a new world of possibility, really, because it's a way of kind of offering the soil this organism that could be beneficial, could be a way of also reintroducing, for example, a species that is under threat, for example, of extinction. It could be a way of offering this organism to the soil as well. And the very moment where the mycelium started to grow from the letter outward, kind of starting to penetrate the soil, this is the moment that I photographed and is part of the fungal poems. But it's a huge discovery. I'm very keen on continuing this with sculpture as well, where I can inoculate maybe objects that can then grow mycelium.
Yeah. Well, I was interested, Rodrigo, because I know it's been a little while now since the exhibition at Arnolfini, but I know that you had an opportunity to meet a number of different artists who all share your passion for mycelium and the forest floor. Whether you'd stayed in touch with anyone, but also if any of the conversations that you'd had with some of those artists had also inspired different ways of working or thinking.
Well, David Nash, well, all of the artists involved, Marianne Pumoseno, Alma Heikila, yes, super inspired and by their work. And John Newling, we're always kind of following each other's tracks now and keeping up with the work. So yeah, definitely. And it's a nice kind of step towards thinking below the ground. Like I think the progression of the works were kind of diving into the unknown, the most mysterious part of fungi, and understanding their impact.
That's lovely to hear, because I know one thing we were really keen was that a lot of the artists did have that chance to make those connections and networks, and especially actually across countries, but also across ages and stages in career. So I think that's really lovely, especially that you and John Newling have kept that relationship going.
Yes, he's a huge inspiration for me. I brought his lovely book with me back to Chile, and yes, I think that conversation between the works is really, really important. And as you say, across stages in career and different histories, backgrounds, and yeah, that aspect is really important to think about these issues broadly, to open up the conversation.
You mentioned earlier about having a dream about the book, and I just wondered, we kind of had very early conversations about how you would like the book to be presented, and I just wondered if you would like to talk a bit more about that, and who were the inspirations for the construction, or the how the book finally appeared.
Sure. When I was working for these 2 months in Bristol, I was it was intense kind of days of working and experimenting. Many works were very thought kind of oriented, more planned than others. Others were really experimental. Others were totally didn't work as planned sometimes. And when I had the invitation to think about this edition, I had this dream of that everything was like non-hierarchical in a way, like all of the ideas were considered in the same way, the most complex ones with the failed experiments. All of this was part of this process, like and how a work could incorporate the aspect of change, of uncertainty, of indeterminacy, which is very much part of Mycelium. So I wanted to replicate that in a way, and I remember telling you about you and Laura about this dream that which was very ambitious as well, was more than 70 prints. But I remember being very stimulated by your response as well, and thinking about how to include then the magnifying glasses, the Petri dishes, all of the conversations that were really inspiring and ended up being part of the book itself. I think all of the stages were part of a conversation, a collaboration with you, and in symbiosis in the same way that these organisms operate. So I'm really happy about this symbiosis.
Thank you. Yes, and I think it's such a metaphor, isn't it, for printmaking, that there is this sort of symbiosis and this sort of natural evolution and collaboration and those conversations that kind of emerge. And I just wanted to bring in Laura again, because it wouldn't have happened without Laura and that knowledge that and her expertise in a range of different printmaking techniques and technology, and just the depth of that knowledge in being able to bring this book to completion.
Yeah, I mean, this is as a master printer, this is the biggest project I've ever worked on, and I think feeding off the enthusiasm of Rodrigo and all the work that we made, it just seemed like, okay, this is ambitious, but we can do this. It's going to be an absolutely incredible piece of work that, you know, will just be a gorgeous thing to exist in the world. But yeah, I think, yeah, using all of my skills it did feel like symbiosis, because it felt like Rodrigo had all these incredible ideas, and then I knew how we could actually make those into a physical thing. So it was a real lovely collaboration, and it was a real honor to be able to print these for Rodrigo.
I think
I really nice appreciate it, Laura. Thank you so much for your amazing work and the incredible care and yeah, care for what you do, and all your knowledge and dedication. So I'm really honored to be working with you as well. Thank you.
Should we? I think. Should we end it there and say, while we're on a roll with your internet connection, I think, and say thank you so much for your time and yes, and your enthusiasm and your passion, and for being here as well. So, and taking the time out.
Thank you on behalf of. I was going to say thank you on behalf of Arnolfini as well, Rodrigo, for the time that you spent with us, and the works that you created then, but that you're also showing now. And we hope we do get a chance to see you again next year when you're in Europe.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Rodrigo. It's a huge pleasure. Make sure you come and see us next year, or we'll come and see you. And I'm sure there's another project.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, yeah, lovely to see you. Thanks so much for everything.
Thank you.